The Senate is expected to pass the debt limit increase today, suspending the limit on federal borrowing through May 18th. Rick Santelli has some thoughts on that this morning. Hey, Rick.
Good morning, Carl, and welcome, Congressman.
Hey, good morning.
You know, let's explain it a little bit with your voting record, just so, viewers and listeners can kind of frame where you came from, maybe help decide where fiscal conservatives are going. Did you vote for the original bill where the threshold was $1 million on the tax cuts before the fiscal cliff deal? Did you vote on that bill?
That never actually even came up. That was the option B that was talked about a lot. It never actually came up for a vote. Right.
Okay, now can I ask you off the record, while you're on TV, would you have voted for that?
I probably would, because we're dealing with the dynamic of how do we protect as many Americans as possible from the tax increase. Our goal was the tax increases don't help our economy, and so we got to find some way to protect as many people as possible.
So you did not vote for ultimately the bill that really was voted for, and that's the fiscal cliff compromise. You did not vote for that. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And now the bill
at the end of the day, it doesn't help us solve the problem.
I'm not disagreeing. And the bill that's currently being voted on is to suspend the debt ceiling. I've had several emails, I have to say, Congressman, in the last 24 hours. The word suspend makes some people nervous, but I think that I don't see any malicious intent to allow the debt ceiling to get out of control before May. So you think that one is going to pass, correct?
I think it is going to pass. The suspension was done because the Treasury can't tell us right now what will get us past the budget season. Our goal was, it's not the fact that we have this huge debt, which is a gigantic issue, it's that there's no plan to ever get out of debt. And so we're trying to push back to the Senate to say, you do a budget, we'll do a budget, and then as soon as the budget is over for both of us, then we'll deal with debt ceiling after that. Well, why are we dealing with the debt ceiling when we don't even have a plan to ever stop overspending? Let's get a plan to stop overspending.
It's pretty hard to go through a budget when there is no budget, at least on the Senate side, or one that both houses have passed. All right, now let's get to the meat of what I want to discuss. Okay, when we talk sequester here, it looks to me like we're asking a program defense that gets about 20% of all the budget to take about half the cuts. Now, as wild as that sounds, you need to start somewhere, and it's never going to be an easy process. Are you for the sequester as it currently stands, if that's all the spending cuts that you're going to be able to put on the table?
Yeah, I would much prefer to find a more reasonable way to do it. Doing across-the-board cuts, especially the way they come down, is the wrong way to do it. But if this is the only way that we can get the President and the Senate to actually agree to reducing spending, it's all we've got. So at this point, the worst thing that could happen is we just continue spending out of control and have no plan to bring it down. While I don't like the sequester, if this is the only option we have, it's the only option we have.
Now, is there a cohesiveness with the Republican Party, specifically the fiscal conservatives, that they're going to be able to walk this all the way through to the end? Do you see any surprises? And how do you think the president and the opposing party, the Democrats, will respond to that strategy of sequesters?
Well, Rick, a lot of your viewers get a chance to track this stuff all the time. They know last May in the House, we passed a replacement for sequester that was more strategic, that dealt with some mandatory spending, dealt with some discretionary spending, a way to be able to bring it back down to replace the sequester. We passed it in May of last year. We passed it again in December. We have waited for the Senate to reciprocate and say, here's our plan. We put out our plan. They may not like our plan, but their responsibility is to answer back, and so we can go to conference and be able to find a solution on that. So at this point, we're still waiting on the Senate response to be able to come back. We'll put out another plan as well as a House to say, here's where we are to replace the sequester, because it's not the best way to do. But if they never respond, we have no way to be able to settle this.
Well, Congressman, thank you. And I want to ask you back as this progresses towards that May deadline. Thank you for being our guest today, Congressman.
You bet. We got a March 1, a March 27, and a May deadline. They're all coming at us.
Thank you. Carl, back to you.
All right, Rick, thanks so much. We're going to close out the month of January in the States, but Europe's about to do